from Trash and Stash with me today. So, waste, they say, can be halved, cut in half by mid century 2050. So, how is a circular economy different from a regular economy?
Okay, so our regular economy as we know it today is a linear model. So they make it, we buy it, we use it, and we throw it away. A circular economy to me feels more old-fashioned. So you make a quality product, you use it, you fix it, you sell it, reuse it, give it away. So it has multiple use life cycles. And when it finally gets to be broken down, it's broken down in its parts, and either reused in its entirety or recycled and reused in materials. And so it's a waste-free closed loop system. So all the parts materials just can be used in infinity because it's designed to be built that way. Some of it is a waste diversion strategy. Most of it is a purchasing and consumption decision and a design, because we live in a world where a lot of the stuff that we buy now is designed with functional obsolescence, so you continue to be in that purchase state. And so this is making a choice to buy things that are higher quality, intended for longer life, and really designed to be reused over and over again.
So, intentional obsolescence. So, maybe build on that for the audience, some who may not be familiar with the term, because in 2024, America's first and probably still only B Corp certified junk removal service handled almost 1 million pounds of junk. And you guys successfully diverted 29% in 2024. And as of July this year, you've already handled nearly 850,000 pounds with a diversion rate of 49.7%,
Yep.
which almost puts you at your goal of 50. So tie in a little bit more information on that intentional obsolescence for the people who may not know, and let them know how that what you guys are doing with the diversion rate and goal of 50% helps to offset that.
Yeah, I think we see that obsolescence, that functional obsolescence, over and over again in our life. Like most of us, we see it with our phones. That it feels like right before Apple comes out with a new phone or a software update, everything seems to slow down. Our phones don't quite work the way they're supposed to, and there's probably design that the new software requires. I mean, yes, it's capable of doing more and whatever, but the phone wasn't built in an expandable way to be able to keep that stuff going. Or like old phones used to have batteries that you could replace. You can't replace a phone battery now. It's all together. And so, yeah, it's part of it is creating a sleek, more advanced, more functional device. But a lot of it is to keep you in that consumption behavior. I was just talking to my son this afternoon earlier, about cars. And I feel like we talk about cars a lot here, but modern cars have computerized transmissions, or they've got all these infotainment systems that aren't really designed to age. They're designed to keep you in a purchasing cycle, and completely different conversation, but cars are probably really more a delivery mechanism for financing than they are for selling transportation. But the idea is that every 3 to 5 years, these things will be designed out of use, and you'll have to go and update it. And so that happens with our cars, it happens with our phones, it happens with our clothes and the fast fashion that you're buying seasonal clothes, and it's not high quality stuff. It's made overseas. It's designed to be worn for this year, sold by TikTok influencers, and then you'd like to say you give it away, and so you bring those things to Goodwill, but 70% of the stuff that you bring to Goodwill ends up either in a landfill or on a ship and sent overseas. And so those things just aren't really designed for long-term use. Like my overalls are Patagonia. Um, and we selected them for a lot of reasons, one of which is they're made out of hemp, and so they're a lot lighter. But the other is, we're hard on our clothes. And so like this one has a clip that's broken. And so I fixed it this time, but I can send it back to Patagonia and they'll repair it and send it back to me. And so rather than just throwing them away because it's got one breakage point, I'm able to keep using these for a lot longer than they normally would be able to be used. And I think that's the idea behind the functional obsolescence is, things are, these companies make money by selling you product. And so the shorter something lasts, the more product they can sell you, without sounding too jaded or too whatever about the world. But it's I started this company sort of as a rebellion against mass consumerism, and we see it. And, it's funny because my business is to haul this stuff away. And so the more you consume and the more you get rid of, the more work we have. But that's not really our mission. Our mission is to help with those life transitions and to help manage the stuff problem, but also contribute um, to a more sustainable future for a community, for a world, for whatever. And so that's why we talk about this stuff. And for us, in terms of our diversion rate, we've handled a lot, and I'm proud of what we've been able to divert. A lot of that has been through donations. We've got some good partnerships with a lot of the big name charities that are out there and a lot of the smaller ones. And by having those partnerships, we're able to pick items up and get them out, and back to secondhand stores. That one, put stuff, keep extend the life cycle of the product. Two, provide items and material for people who need them. And three, just make the landfill a little less crowded.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was a lot to unpack for the people there. And if they were catching it, they could it's a lot of value. And we have on the screen last week's diversion numbers, which was a total weight of over 21,000 pounds. We prevented over 12,000 pounds, you guys did, and that was over 56%. So I heard it put like this, right? I heard it put like this, that with the nation's IKEA addiction, right? There's a bunch of stuff that's like not gonna make it to the antique store. It's not gonna make it to the next generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how is the circular economy transforming household waste into opportunity? And what can eco conscious homeowners do to join that movement?
Yeah, I mean, I think one, it's making appropriate purchasing decisions, and IKEA actually does have a pretty well-developed sustainability program, and so they've got exchange programs and those sorts of things to be able to recapture a lot of this stuff, that is, no longer functional or useful in your own home. But it's supporting businesses that have those initiatives. It might be supporting or making purchasing decisions where you're buying things that are higher quality. And yeah, the upfront cost is probably a little bit higher, but over the lifetime, you'll probably end up saving money if you're not having to replace those things every 2 to 3 to 5, whatever it is. So that's some of what you do. The others, like being creative in the way you use things. So one of the things that we pick up pretty often are or like entertainment units from the 90s that were built around like a square TV. And so very few of us have square TVs anymore. And so these
The wooden ones.
these big heavy, entertainment stands, just they don't fit the TVs. They're kind of old fashioned looking, but can you repurpose that and create a coffee bar out of it, or a closet, or whatever? Like we've seen really cool projects where people making, like I've seen a bar made out of an old organ, or those sorts of things. So it's trying to reimagine some of that, and I mean, even further, if you don't have the skill or the creativity to build something like that, like there's local craftsmen who, like through our secondhand store, our marketplace, we sell a lot of our stuff to um, furniture refinishers who will then take it, paint it, put new hardware on it, reimagine it, and then they resell it. So not only are you keeping, a piece of furniture that maybe wasn't currently functional in its existing state, you're updating it, making it functional, and you're also contributing to the local economy, keeping money in our, Fort Mill, Charlotte, Carolinas region. So that's all part of that circular economy. Um, Even the idea of buying secondhand, I feel like a lot of people are happy to donate the stuff they no longer need, and they feel like you know, that's a contribution to the circular economy, and it most certainly is. But an equal contribution is buying secondhand, and so it's in Facebook Marketplace, I know lots of people who are happy to find all sorts of good deals on Marketplace, and that's exactly right. I mean, that's a way to make a wiser, more sustainable purchasing decision that helps contribute to that circular economy philosophy.
So, what are the most practical steps a homeowner can take to start to build a truly sustainable home from your observations?
Yeah, I mean, I'll come back to, so the front end of it is the buying. So buy secondhand, buy quality products that have long lifespans, buy products that are made out of recycled material, buy things like Energy Star appliances that have a smaller impact, even if they come at a higher cost initially. Um, so that's a big part of it. Buy things, recycled materials. Buy things that have recyclable or responsible packaging. So we don't think a lot about it, but a lot of the stuff we buy comes, in huge wasteful packaging displays to be able to catch your eye at the point of sale, but is wasteful on the backside of it. So buy things that are responsible, and the way they're put together. So that's the front end of it. On the use side, it's use the things you buy the things you need. When things break, fix them where you can. When you no longer need something, consider giving it away, reselling it, donating it, get it out in the hands of people who can still use it. I think that's a big part of it. I think sometimes we buy a lot of things, especially like at the hardware store or the auto parts store, where it's a one-time use thing. I always joke that every garage clean out we pick up a fence post digger, and because it's like people moved in their house, they had to dig a hole to sink their mailbox, and it's the only time they've ever touched it until we come and pick it up and dispose of it. And so, can you borrow those things from a neighbor? Can you borrow those things from a community thing? You post it on Facebook, hey, I'm looking for this, to avoid that kind of, single use kind of purchase. It feels old fashioned to me. It feels like this is the way people used to live. Like if you I think of my grandparents and coming out of World War II, it's like you had to be responsible going through the war to not use up all the materials, and then like thinking of opening my grandparents' fridge and there's leftovers in a margarine container. Like it's just their garage is full of coffee cans full of screws rather than nicely labeled container store sort of thing. Like those sorts of things. It's just live in a way that's kind of with the resources that are available to you. And so from a usage standpoint, I think that's a big part of it. And then even though it's a cycle, the disposal part of it is the downstream, and so that's really where we step in. And so partnering with people who make responsible decisions and not necessarily the easy decisions on being able to dispose of things. And so can you sort stuff for donation, sort them for recycling? Obviously, we're targeting 50% landfill diversion, which means 50% is still being thrown away. But that's in this case, if we handled 800,000 pounds, that's 400,000 pounds of material that's, not been thrown away. And so continuing to build on those steps, make a good decision, make another good decision, um, helps on that front. So I think it's that threefold, like make responsible buying decisions, be thoughtful about how you use the materials, and then be considerate when it comes time to disposing and moving them on. And the circular economy talks a lot about a value ladder. And so, like, if I have a bicycle that is rusted and my kids no longer use it, its highest value is to be repaired and used as a bicycle. The next step is break it down into parts and recycle it so the metal can be used as a material. That's sort of option B, and it's further down the ladder. And then option C is, or D, or wherever we're at, is throw it away. And so the higher up that ladder we can make a decision, the more circular we are. And so that's part of that process as well.
Yeah, throw it away is option Z beta, right?
Right. Yeah.
So energy bills, all right, because they're becoming like ransom notes. How does buying from the local circular economy, so that bicycle goes and gets refurbished at Stashies and a new coat of paint on it, a new sprocket, right? A seat redone, and now it's up to have a second life, right?
Mhm.
How does buying from the local economy, the local circular economy, businesses, upscale fashion, you mentioned shops, secondhand furniture stores, strengthen both the economy, sustainability, and then we can go into the environment a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think the more local you can make a buying decision, the more dollars stay in that community. So it's not, dollars aren't being leaked out to a corporate franchise somewhere else, or so it contributes to just the dollar. The business owner's local, they're going to spend that money in their local community, and so more of those dollars stay within the business. Those dollars can then be used to pay local employees who are also buying, in the community. And so if you can, the closer you can keep those dollars, the more a community can benefit from those purchases. Um, from like a global, like, energy consumption sort of thing, the higher something is on that replacement ladder. So a bike stays a bike means there's very little energy expenditure in turning that back into a bike. If you take that bike and you drive it to a scrap metal shop, the scrap metal shop breaks it down, puts it on a truck, they drive it to a foundry or whatever happens to the metal, then that gets built down, run through a factory, and then turned into a bike again. Like, there was a whole lot of energy that was used to complete that cycle. And so, yeah, it's better than digging, metal ore out of the ground and starting from scratch. But there's a lot of energy used, and so that doesn't necessarily talk about like the energy usage in my house, but it does trickle down because there's energy cost that's being expended, and so it ultimately, more of those sorts of decisions ultimately affect our internal energy usage. But I think that's the idea, just in general, is, and really, like, we're members of these community. Like, when I started this business, it was during COVID, and one of the things that was so cool was I was making a career change, and so we had a story to talk about how we came from the events business. Everybody who was there at the beginning of the company were former events professionals. When you're in the business of managing the public and the public can no longer assemble, like, that was a hard, career prospects didn't look great at that moment in time. And so we got to tell our story, and it was like the local community who came out and championed us. They gave us a chance. They were, sharing our posts on Facebook. They were hiring us. They were telling their friends. And so I think just the fact that you can connect a human being to the service that you're receiving, was powerful, and I really appreciated that as the recipient of that, versus the faceless, nameless Amazon purchase. Like, yes, you're getting something convenient, and I buy things on Amazon too, so it's not like I'm saying don't do it, but the further away you are from it, like the word, it's philosophically different. It's really transactional in that moment. It's not community building. We had kind of started with this idea that think local, act local. That would be the greatest way to impact the world around me, especially at that time. Like, it was pandemic, it was political craziness, it was all of these things, and I'm like, despite what's happening crazy in the world, I can still go outside and talk to my neighbors, and they might post something on Facebook that is not something I necessarily agree with, but when we get to talk about it, like, those differences are really such a small part of our life and actually have such a small impact on our day-to-day life that it's almost irrelevant. That the fact that we can treat each other as human beings, that if I'm in need because I lost my job, that they're willing to hire us and give us a shot, like that's what was important to me. And so I think that's part of that circular economy story, is like, not only are you keeping things out of landfill, not only are you impacting like the world, you're keeping like the sense of community or human energy in that same closed loop. And I think that's important also.
To keep the human energy there is anything that can keep us connected, especially after such a long time and a continued quote unquote social distancing, right? is great. And for people to get around, to get over themselves and think about something bigger and beyond, like the future of the space we all share collectively, is impactful. So there's hearsay that the reduction in CO2 emissions could be up to 39 to 48% by 2030. Industries could be adopting circular practices to cut global greenhouse gas emissions, right, by nearly 40%. 2030 is a big term. I mean, a big date there. So as I'm going over my notes here, with the environment alone reclaiming up to 4 GT, right, gigatons, I guess, of CO2 and yielding $360 billion per year in net profit by 2050. How does the circular economy help the environment in the greater Charlotte area, in particular, Rock Hill, Fort Mill? What immediate opportunities do you see for the locals there?
I'm not sure how to answer that. One of the things that we're doing right now is we're doing an audit to understand what our CO2 emissions are and greenhouse gases, and how we offset that in our daily operations, because we've asked this question quite a bit. Like, if we take a couch from your house and we have to drive it 20 miles to the donation center, or we can drive it 2 miles to the dump, like, was that a net benefit? Like, did we spend more time driving back and forth and putting stuff into the air versus what we offset by keeping that out of landfill? And I don't know what the energetic cost is of building that couch, but I do know it's higher than us driving an extra 15 or 30 miles to be able to donate it. And that's just one unit of measurement. It doesn't account for the fact that it's being used by somebody who can, who needs it. So there's somebody who's buying it at a lower cost because they might not have been able to afford it new. And so, I guess that's one measurement, that if you just take that one couch as an example and you multiply that times the 400,000 pounds of material that we've diverted, then that is a pretty large impact that trickles down to us here locally. I just met with the folks over at Sustain Charlotte, and their primary responsibility or their mission is to make sure that Charlotte grows responsibly. So it's really about sustainable growth, and some of that is in a city that's growing at the speed that that Charlotte is. Like, it's creating sprawl, and that puts more cars on the road. That, and that ultimately starts to affect our collective quality of life. And um, if we're efficient and smart in the way we make these decisions, if we're able to warehouse the stuff that we collect, then we can start to reduce our time on the road, be more efficient um, with our donation and disposal recycling practices. And so that's part of why we're going to start measuring kind of our greenhouse gas impact. But I think it starts to spiral out. Like, there's all of these things where, like, oh, well, if you do this, then this happens, or if you do this, then this happens. And so I just think I don't know if that answers your question, or maybe that's me talking around it, but that's kind of where my head went with it.
Hey, it's always the perfect day. This is natural. This is live. And I appreciate you sharing with the community. And, one of the recent creatives I did for you was this one with the bunnies here, right? with the with the horns and the tentacles. And we're not saying that this is the success exactly truly of cheap junk removal, right? Like, they just gonna grab it, go throw it anywhere. The bunny eats it. Next thing you know, you got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle bunnies, right? We're not saying that's what happened, but what we do know is that there's a lot of stuff that does create toxins in the body and in the environment that could be damaging over time. So the home can actually become allergic to itself. Can the circular economy actually make homes healthier?
Yeah, I think that probably is a chief benefit of it. So we talk about plastics, and all the microplastics that are leaking into our world. If you just switch from plastic Tupperware to glass Tupperware, then that product is its lifespan is much longer, and it's a healthier product to be able to use. And when it gets to the end of its life cycle, it can be recycled, and reused again. So I think that, as an example, would be a way where your house is getting safer, by making better better purchasing and usage choices, and is a key factor in a circular economy sort of philosophy.
So what does recycling have to do with it all? Since you started there with the plastic Tupperware.
Yeah, I mean, I think recycling is sort of it's that option B. So if you can use things to their highest and best use, as in their current state, um, either with repair or upcycling, then that's sort of the most circular choice. But um, part of it is manufacturers need to design things so that when they can no longer be upcycled or reused, that they can be broken down, and used in their next highest and best use. Um, and so that is part of the design. A lot of it is the design, but at least those materials are not having to be remined, are not having to go through deforest, whatever it takes to find these materials in their raw form. Um, Not to mention it's creating jobs and recycling and other things. So I think it's a plan B. It's not the answer. You can't just say this is recyclable, therefore that was the best choice. I put it in my can. Um, but it's an alternative that gets you halfway there. And also, like, recycling isn't, as a consumer, you've got to be pretty diligent about how you recycle, because not every community or not every handler has the same recycling rules, or can handle the same materials. And so even if you go buy a piece of plastic and it's got the recycling triangle on the bottom, there's no guarantee that your hauler can actually handle that material. And so that goes back to making a relevant and appropriate buying decision. Um, or knowing, having a plan. Like if you're truly interested in where these things go, doing the research and the homework, and then finding like, oh, the innovation barn will take this, even though our curbside pickup won't take that, and what you're gonna do with it once you get to that point.
Quick commercial break, okay?
Yes, sir.
I do throw stuff away, but more stuff keeps coming in.
Don't stay buried.
Help me. Unbury.
Trash and stash. Locally done right. Less junk, more joy.
I do throw stuff away, but more stuff keeps coming in.
So, $4.5 trillion economic upside they're claiming by 2030. Embracing circular economy practices could generate that staggering number in economic benefits annually. The global wealth creation on a planet-saving scale, as you was mentioning, if we scale it up. What role should we encourage the local small business owners to play in this?
I think it's probably just being intentional. It's a lot of it. Like you can make a bottom line argument, and that should be a lot of it. Is one, what impact is this going to make, and two, what impact is it going to make on my business in terms of margins or whatever else? Because we talk about it a lot as a B Corp certified business. We're not a nonprofit. We have to be profitable. If we don't make money with our business, then all of the good we're trying to accomplish can't happen. And so talking about profit margins, revenues, like that's all relevant. And so whether you like, we just bought, for an example, we just bought a second truck. And so I bought a retired U-Haul truck. A lot of it was one, I could buy that truck with no financing, be able to pay cash for it, which allows us to better service our customers, and allows us to keep our costs low, because if our overhead continues to increase, then our rates need to increase as well. But the other thing is, that kept 10,000 pounds of material out of a landfill, out of a scrapyard. And so that's a circular philosophy, that we're giving this truck a second lease on life. It's kept our overhead low, it keeps us rolling, and reduces our landfill imprint. And so I think that's sort of a business owner sort of conversation. Yeah, a flashy, shiny truck on the road looks great. But this felt like it was the right fit for us, not just because of cost, but because it really exemplified what we stand for. And that's just a corporate sort of philosophy for us is be responsible, be a little conservative in our decision making, and keep our mission front and center. And so that type of decision felt like a good one for us. And so I think business owners need to continue to ask those things as they make those decisions. And same on the back end. It's easy. Our business obviously is to come and pick up materials from businesses who are no longer using the things that they need. And so we're grateful when they hire us, because that's one of those circular decisions, that they found a provider who prioritizes getting these things to where they're supposed to go. We were faced once with a situation where we were cleaning out an office, and the contact said, "Hey, we really want to use you guys because we love that things are going to get recycled and donated." And so we came up with an action plan that said, we're going to have a truck for the donatable goods, we're going to have a trailer for the recyclable goods, and we're going to have a dumpster for the stuff that's going to be trash. So we had a three-pronged approach. And when we pulled stuff out of the office, it would just be put them in each one of the categories. And so they ultimately came back to us, and it was, in my eyes, it was a fair priced, fair quoted job. But they came back to us and said, "Hey, we really appreciate the sorting approach, but what if we just rented dumpsters and we hired you guys to be the labor? And so we had to say, lean back on our philosophy and say, well, that's not the way we would do it. That's not mission center for us. And so it was inconsistent with our value. And so we declined, we held that this is the way we would do this job and we wouldn't do it the other way. Even though we would have had an opportunity to win a good job. It wasn't consistent. And so for that business owner, they had to make whatever decision they had to make. But it wasn't necessarily one that was consistent with the circular economy. And so I think they're, I think it was short-sighted, and ultimately there's, a different decision that could have been made. But that's where I think business owners can put their heads together. And if they've got the benefit of time, maybe it isn't you pay us to haul off the furniture, but you can resell it. That takes energy and effort and time, and sometimes that's just not an option. But there are different approaches if you know what the purpose is, what you're trying to accomplish, and how to get there.
So, job creation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The shift to the circular economy could generate millions of new jobs. The quote, the hearsay again, the estimate is 2 million in the EU alone. Magic number, 2030. Global potential, 24 million in new opportunities. Building more sustainable economies and sustainable communities. Give us your take on the circular economy's benefit to future generations.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the job creation front, like we talked about, in our world, we've created jobs because we're employing people who are going out and collecting this material. As we grow, our vision is that we have really what we're calling an urban mine, that we would have a warehouse where we can bring these things back and have the ability to sort and separate, to have a retail or resell space. Even potentially have a workshop where people can come and use recycled, buy a used dresser, be able to paint it from the recycled paint that we collect on job sites or from the hardware, and reimagine this thing and have this sort of communal, sort of shared experience. And so that's sort of our big dream. But you need people to do that. You need to have a warehouse manager. You need to have those sorts of things. So I think just on our end, the waste collection, waste handling, I won't even call it waste, the material collection, material handling is sort of instant job creation. And that scales as the circular economy picks up steam, and this happens beyond what we're capable of. But you're talking about large industry, major industrial repurposing. I think is an opportunity for job growth and local, because the material is already here. There's jobs that exist in manufacturing, but a lot of what we have is manufactured overseas, and so that's not necessarily jobs that are here. So that's a way to bring jobs back. From an engineering perspective, design perspective, it's designing these things so that they can be broken down, reused, that they're essentially modular or transferable. So this piece can be used on that, or that piece can be used on this. And so, it's interesting to see what that job looks like and what jobs are replaced and what jobs are created in a shift from linear to circular. As far as what it does for future generations, I think, obviously the things in our world it's finite. How finite, I don't know, but I do know if you go to a landfill and you stand on that hill and you watch the amount of material that was there on Monday, and then you come back on Tuesday and see how different it looks because things have been shifted around, and the stream of trucks that are coming in, like it doesn't feel sustainable. And I guess you can't hang your hat on a feeling per se, but if you're just seeing it, and it's very like you just get a sense of waste, and Like there is something that, you know, is a little icky about, like, this is just, it's a lot of stuff. Like it's a Wally world, and you know, that's not necessarily a future that we, you know, I don't think we collectively want that. And it's not even a political thing. It's just like, hey, look around. Like, we shouldn't be making this, using it once and throwing it away. Like, that's just, it goes against sort of your sensibilities. And so creating systems for that, getting back to this place of respect for each other, for the world, for the materials, for the things in our hand. I think culturally, like, if we can sort of get our handle on that and teach that and breathe that into people, then that feels to be a net benefit also. And so, you know, just if I'm looking at my kids, I want them to be able to look around and say, hey, let's reuse that because we can, because we should. Like, it's not done yet. Let's keep using it. From just managing your household, like, let's not be in this consumer driven outside, like, I want that because I want it, because I'm going to get a dopamine hit from it, because, you know, my algorithm told me that I need to buy it right now and have it at my house by this evening. Like, pump the brakes on those sorts of things and change the way we buy or change the way we think about the things that we bring in. Like, I just, as a parent, like, those are the things I want for my kids. So I think if we can talk about those things, then, you know, that's sort of a net benefit as well.
You know, what great better place to bring this conversation to. You with us? Okay. You with us? Can you hear me?
Did I lose you?
Yeah, for a moment. You back? Here, do an audio check. All right, can you hear? Can't. Okay, he's having a little technical difficulty there. So while he's hopping back on here, let me get him back on.
Sorry.
Nah, it's all good, man. Little bit of a technical glitch. You back with us now?
I'm back. I'm good.
Okay. So I think that's a great place to bring the conversation to is family. And you were talking about managing the household. We have the youth creative on the screen right now. That's really hitting IG for us really good. And I encourage everybody that's watching to go check out Trash and Stash's Instagram and read this story. What it was, you know, again, family, because one of the things that is high value to repurpose is time. And then what people are spending the most on right now is being able to free up their calendar to spend time with their family. And in this story, not to ruin it, but to give it all away, but the mother became a gamer, right? And was able to embrace the family games because, you know, hiring Trash and Stash gave her that luxury of time. And with the community, local and national, being under such stress right now, such stressful circumstances, working extra hard because inflation, how valuable is that peace of mind that you allow your clients to soak in when you leave them with their space?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it a lot. We once had a customer tell us, messy bed, messy head. And so she was just saying, like, I can't even, like, the anxiety, the cloud in my mind by being in a space that's cluttered was problematic for her. And I feel that a lot. Like, it's, you know, there is our environment, our personal environment is important to mindset. It's important to personal health. It's important to all of those things. And so I remember that pretty often on jobs, but we see it, like we always talk about, we're in the transition business. And so a lot of times we come out to customers' homes, it's because they're going through some sort of transition. It's, they're putting their mom into assisted living, or they're going through a divorce, or their kids are going off to college. Like there's some sort of transition that's happening in their life. And so our job is very human, much more human than I ever expected it to be. I kind of thought it was going to be this transactional. You call us, we pick it up, we leave. Thanks for having us. We'll see you the next time. But it's not. It's people who are typically often going through some sort of something, like there's something emotional about what's happening. And a lot of times the physical stuff that's in their space is just such a barrier. Like it's right in their face. They can't help but walk into a room and immediately see the stuff. And that becomes overwhelming. They might have a million things to deal with, like in the case of managing an estate, but the physical stuff is right there, and they know they physically can't go through this. It's just overwhelming. And so when we come in and we're able to help alleviate that and get the stuff out of there, it's a physical lifting, but it's also an emotional or lifting, or spiritual. Like you can see their shoulders come up, like you can see them be able to breathe. Like that feeling of hyperventilation seems to be alleviated a lot of the time just by removing the physical space. So that sense of peace is real, and we see it a lot, and it's one of the most rewarding parts about what we do.
Camp, I appreciate what you're doing for the nation. Most people see what happens locally, but the domino effects, both to and from, are American. Closing remarks, please.
No, I think what you just said is, make the best decision you can as often as you can. And when those are small decisions, those small decisions add up to big ones. And so just keep being consistent in that mindset. That's a lot of the circular economy. Like none of us are at a place right now where, well, I shouldn't say that. Very few of us that are at a place where our house can be 100% circular. But incremental improvements to get there, becoming familiar with it, making a better decision this time versus that time. Like that's kind of all there is to it. And slowly, you see improvements. And that's what we try to do in our business. Last year we were at 30%. This year we're at 50%. Next year, we're going to aim for 75%. And so we'll see. Those numbers are, it as you start to look at those numbers, it changes the way you do business. It changes the service that you're offering. But those are good challenges that we're eager to take on.
So, circular economy, thank you for sharing all that. You have produced a white paper. The link is right there on the screen. It's been posted throughout. Encourage all to go grab the white paper, look at the white paper on the website, and explore the blog section that's there too. A lot of great articles, everything from appliance issues to, how much you can save at estate sales, right? Clean outs and stuff like that using trash and stash. You'd be surprised of the value they bring. Time is priceless. Cam, I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks.
All right. And we're gonna wrap this up and get out. Say closing remarks to the people, say bye.
Yep. See you guys. Thanks.
All right. Thank you for tuning, and tag someone that could add value, whether they're a property manager or a business owner, or that lady next door that you walk past her yard when you go to your mailbox, but she got a lot of stuff back there, and she's a little frail and she can't do it by herself. Maybe the community chip in and help her out, free up her mind, take the weight off her shoulders too. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all time today. I'm Pasha Paroh. We build in America one truck at a time with Trash and Stash.